When Obama's about to make that decision about sending more troops to Afghanistan or not, I wonder how Americans are going to react if they do end up having to pay for them. Well, here to discuss it with me, I have Mark Levine, former congressional attorney and host of the radio show Inside Scoop. Mark, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Alona.
So I guess that's the first question I really want to ask is, why do we think it's okay to let other people fund our wars? I mean, why do we put this borrowed money into wars and not things like health care?
Well, I think the we is a very large adjective. Obviously, many Americans, two Americans might have three opinions on this. But the heart of the issue, I think, is Americans, like most people all around the world, don't want to pay for their government. You ask anyone on a poll, and they'll say they want lower taxes, and they want more government spending, and they want less deficit. Well, obviously, you can't have all three, but politicians like to prey on people. So Republicans will say, we want to do a war, but we don't want to pay for it. And Democrats will say, we want to do health care, but we don't want to pay for it. And then you have Democrats like Barney Frank and Jack Martha, and I should mention Barney Frank is my ex-boss. They'll say, well, you should pay for your wars. And the Republicans will say, well, you should pay for your health care.
It is an interesting dynamic, too, because Republicans are often the ones that are in support of these wars, and yet we haven't been paying for it all along. So I really want to think about how the dynamics might change if, let's say, this war tax does be put into effect. Are they going to start opposing the wars?
Well, you know, it's an interesting question. First of all, I don't think it will be put into effect. I do think it's a symbolic thing. It's a way for the Democrats to say to the Republicans, don't talk to us about paying for health care when you won't pay for your wars. I think if it did go into effect, it would be very interesting. I think a lot of Republicans might just step back and say, is it worth it? Is it worth the cost?
Exactly. And now they're saying that with Obama sending more troops, it's going to cost $1 million per soldier, that if they send the 40,000 troops that he asked for, it's going to be another $40 billion. We can't afford another war anymore.
Well, that's why I think Vice President Biden has the right idea. He's rethinking the entire strategy. It's interesting when you look at the consensus, really. I don't think many Americans want us to completely withdraw from Afghanistan. But I think that nobody wants us to occupy it for decades to come either. We need a middle ground. And I think the right way to do it is to make sure the terrorists don't get a foothold, don't have the resources to attack America. But at the same time, I don't think we have to control every town or hamlet.
But a lot of those strategies so far are saying that we're probably going to be in there for at least a decade. Now, you're saying that this is symbolic, and I just want to talk about, you know, Barack Obama. It seems like he really is trying to change things. Maybe people that are in opposition to the war wouldn't really agree. But is this just a different attitude that the U.S. is taking? Now, if we do have a war tax, if it is put into place, that, fine, we'll take responsibility for our own actions, and we don't just expect everyone else to handle it?
Well, one change is that actually the wars are on budget. Prior to the Obama administration, they actually pretended the wars didn't exist. They weren't even on the budget. Now they're included in the budget, and it's one of the reasons why our budget deficit is so large. So you find the Republicans complaining about a large budget deficit that has always existed, but they just pretended it didn't exist. So I think it's more honest than it was before. If the tax passes, I think you'll find more Americans saying we shouldn't pay for it.
We shouldn't be in a... Yeah, it's
but that's why I don't think it'll pass.
It's interesting, though, to see how honest you might change a lot of attitudes and what the reactions of Americans might end up being. Mark, thanks for joining me. But now, with all the talk about our wars abroad, I want us not to forget that there are a lot of people waging wars of their own here at home.